pan-national Subodaya movement of Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Madam. It was not only difficult for you, Madam Chair, it was also difficult for the organizers to get my spellings right because my last name has half the alphabet. So, you're forgiven. This is a comparative study that I have done ever since I encountered the movement about a decade ago. Why should a South Asian, a non-Muslim, be interested in Gulen at all and the movement? And I'm probably one of the few belonging to that category. He has a proposition for renewal for his fellow Muslims. An accompaniment to his native Turks in Turkey. A paradigm shift for diaspora Turks. That's most of you here. A message to Europe. A statement to the United States, because they like the statements. A pedagogy for education. A strategy for peace building. Lesson for spirituality. An appeal to South Asia. And this is the appeal that made me study the man and the movement. It is this appeal that made me study his counterpart, probably, that I found best in Sri Lanka. Gulen and Hettiarachchi, that's his counterpart. Two men from two different worlds. A Muslim and a Buddhist, religiously poles apart, a monotheist and a non-theist. They hail from east of the West and South Asia, Turkey and Sri Lanka, culturally different. One inspired by Syed Nursi, the other by Mahatma Gandhi, aged 72 and 82, 10 years apart, and inspire others to engage with context and community. What is their message? Service to humanity through engagement and being awakened. Some of the concepts and nuances that have been on these panels, various panels, their task, an engaged Islam and an engaged Buddhism, beyond the masjid and beyond the monastery, facing life, facing reality, here and now. And that's the two men. What do they wish and inspire, friends and colleagues? It's a prophetic phase. He proposes a prophetic phase. Doesn't call himself a prophet. And for his fellow Muslims to return to fundamentals without being fundamentalist about one's own alliance and allegiance to one's faith, belief, and religion and practice. It's like a Gulenian Hizmat aspiration. Gulenian Hizmat aspiration. Shared with the European and North African counterparts and those of us in South and the Far East Asia. So he sounds a global messenger. And Hettiarachchi, his Sri Lankan counterpart, is a pedagogy of praxis to his fellow Buddhists and non-Buddhists alike through individual encounter, small groups and mass rallies, walks, which he calls Padayatra, seminars, conferences and work camps, study days, mass meditation sessions. People unlearn first before they learn, before they relearn. In the light of experience of encounter, gifting or donating one's labor, Shramadana, gifting one's own labor, and realizing the Gandhian dictum, be the change that you wish to see in the world. It's an Arya-Ratna right aspiration. So it's a prophetic face and an Arya-Ratna right aspiration. A social ethic he proposes and breeding a pan-national awareness of awakening of all and the whole. They have religious roots, renewal and recourse. Gulen's view of Jamaat, oriented with Hizbat, has based on the Islamic concept of zakat, in my belief, in my analysis, for a new social responsibility and a sense of otherworldness through mercy and truth. That's what he has discovered. A sense of otherworldness. That is all about Hizmat. Otherworldness. Arya-Ratna views dana, which is selfless giving, binds itself in a new idiom of Shramadana, service of labor with nothing in return. Also invokes a sense of otherworldness, but through compassion and wisdom, which is based on Buddhist social teachings. Theirs, in my view, is a social formula through engagement and revisiting spiritual roots of their people, but interpreting them intensely in the light of rapidly moving world of today. Gulen peace building. This, I thought, is important. Gulen's he transnationalizes the Hizmat vision into a movement mission. It's not just internationalize or transnationalize it, but it creates a mission for those of us who are interested in that sense of otherworldness, in that social responsibility, in that social ethic. The success of the movement, if there is any, is a method, jihad of the word, manavi jihad, or the non-physical jihad, positive action, training and learning, the jihad of the word, shahada, in practice, is in Jamaat, an Islamic awakening, Sarodaya, an awakening of all and the whole. Positive action is a new relationship, he's asking. A new relationship with the near other, who is culturally different. Who is culturally different? The Turks and the Kurds, culturally different. That's the near other, a new relationship. But they're Muslims, the far other. The different religious group, the Hindus and the Buddhists, they're the far other, the gender other, the regional other. When you relocate in the United States, the diaspora, in the Balkans, in Ethiopia, in Europe, the language other. But they are geographic neighbors. Reducing this civilizational gap, a learning curve for a new Europe with or without boundaries or borders, but with a soul to understand that glaring diversity within. It is also to understand diversity within Islam. Gulen drinks from his own well, while expanding and digging it further to explore that which is innovative, transformative, and liberative for his own and others who encounter Islam and Muslim. He invites to dig their own well because it is rich enough. But he invites us to create that elasticity, within. What some of you call as intra-faith dialogue. Let's see what Ariyaratne would like. Sarvodaya invokes Gandhian and Buddhist spiritual values, not in order to return to successful or skillful human endeavor, but to awake an awakening of the self in community for Buddhist Jamaat, for Buddhist community. Sarvodaya movement in Sri Lanka combines awakening and social engagement in multi-pronged dialogue networks and practice on the meaning of development, peace building, and right governance is also important. For him, he carries also transnational concerns based on Buddhist view that the development must aim at the reduction of three personal and social cankers of greed, hatred, and delusion. So much like Gulenian social ethics. He appeals that we must develop our peace-building skills with and without conflict, as it must be personality trait, valuable and useful. We think that peace building is only peace time, conflict time. He considers that it must be embraced as a personality trait, that it is an imperative. Gulen is also proposing a virtue formation. His view of life and a way of life edges on a familiar front through individual transformation, which is fundamental to service to others. Indeed, like the Ariyaratne right social experiment, he argues that those who want to reform the world must first reform themselves. Don't they speak the same language? Don't they drink from the same wells in order to bring others the path of traveling to a better world? They must purify their inner worlds of hatred, rancor, and jealousy, and adorn with outer worlds with all kinds of virtues. So close to Buddhist view of greed, hatred, and delusion. How come they haven't met each other? How come they haven't encountered with each other? Virtues are with and beyond any single religious narrative. Virtues are beyond Buddhism. Virtues are beyond Islam as well. Virtues transpires religious barriers. Whether you are a Sunni or a Shiite, whether you are a Kurd or a Turk. Hence, fundamental to peace building and his foundation is fundamental to peace, ladies and gentlemen. Ariyaratne proposes personality awakening. His invitation to his Buddhist and non-Buddhist men and women in Sri Lanka and beyond, I cannot awaken myself unless I help awaken others. Others cannot awaken unless I do. He's of the view that such levels cannot be achieved unless there is an awakening of personality, awakening of myself, or personality awoken directing to a spiritual renewal to embark upon a new social order. Personality awakening for Ariyaratne is virtue cultivation, not just for personal purity, but for the common good of the Jamaat, be it Buddhist or Islamic. Sarvodaya, the awakening of all and the whole. Paradigming, peace building is also important. How do you see it as a paradigm? Gulen and Ariyaratne both suggest to us not just an awakening from, but an awakening to one's known belief and convictions, and a purification of them in the light of the experience here and now. Gulen reiterates purify, and Ariyaratne says seek within, quench within prior to quench others. A practical, acceptable, workable, and sustainable paradigm of service. Hizmat, Shramadana, Sarvodaya. Actively engage in dialogue, that's for Gulen, with a sense of awakening of all, which is Ariyaratnas, where the other that we spoke about is no longer a stranger to be treated with hostility, but a collaborator to be trusted with hospitality in the service of the common good. And that is peace building. The other is treated with hospitality, not with hostility. Fundamental to social ethic of both Buddhism and Islam. They both look to raise the consciousness of people with whom they come in contact with, both at a personal, you could see, at a personal and a community level. Both of them have a personal touch and a community reach. Both appeal primarily to their compatriots, adults, and carry a rounded message as if to build a new rapport between the local and the global, underpinning peace building as fundamental to social development and well-being of all. This, I thought, has been movement's primary focus. Both movements, Islamic and Buddhist, embark on a new model of discipling or discipleship, which is inspired to fit the 21st definition. Normally, discipleship is following faithfully, following the guru, master, or the charismatic teacher. But it is different here. There is hardly a model of following an individual, neither Gulen nor Ariyaratna. That's not the characteristic of any of these movements. No, there are no disciples to follow a guru. Isn't that incredible? No encouragement to such either, but remain as profound inspirers with a unique influence, impact, and consistency of role modeling. No disciples. Authentic listening, participation, and measured direction absorbed by the people in both movements. That's their characteristics. Do not portray a liberal outlook towards the understanding of their own religious beliefs. They're not liberals. The European Enlightenment liberals. No, they're not. Their reading of both Islamic and Buddhist scriptures and their traditional way of life of the people are well incorporated in their approach to the view of life and a way of life in the true transnational and pan-national effort in peace building as a service formula for community development. Of course, the movement has its own challenge. Hizmat movement with its transnational influence will and perhaps already has faced challenge of holding the Ottoman Islamic civilizational heritage, where it confidently managed diversity, even though certain European hardcore right-wing political chauvinism resents plurality as a problem related to migration and settlement of non-European elements, as Franz Fanon describes as the wretched of the earth. Secondly, to respond to Kemalist legacy of the Turkish Republic and debate on secularity and modernity, how much of each is to be embraced while remaining a loyal Muslim in Europe or in North America. Thirdly, the Hizmat movement will have to face the challenges and perhaps accusations from within the varying schools of Islam, and more particularly from the political Islamism, for a sellout of Islam in the movement, its own laxity and undue freedom to be exposed to that which is un-Islamic. Fourthly, Gulen's own position on Islam and his approach will be seen by both traditionalists who will disown him and the movement on an overemphasis of certain elements such as zakat and with less focus on shahada. Fifthly, his movement can be challenged by reformists themselves as a shallow hybrid or sheer compromiser. These challenges, in fact, are not all unknown to the movement, but what it does need to assess constantly is the new manifestation of the challenges and yet continue to dwell on Gulen's own pragmatism in understanding and explaining to his fellow Muslims and non-Muslims the importance of dialogue and negotiation with all aspects of human living, neither Manichaean nor Cartesian bifurcated view of world and reality, neither an uncritical flat structure of thought processing, nor a pyramidal operational perspective. Gulen's coherent pragmatism, which is neither liberal nor radical, which speaks from within Islam, is what surprises those who encounter the dynamics of the movement. This is what attractively appealing to the young and the old of his world. In fact, this is the inner prompting of peace building that emanate within the movement's activism and continue to challenge all of us for a new phase of being relevant to the global peace and security. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, it would not be accident of history if they were to meet one day. And one of the recommendations of my article and my being present here in DC here is that one day that these two men could meet each other. I hope the Rumi Forum will think about it seriously. And that let them discuss, encounter from within their religious worlds, apart from each other, from miles and seas, yet how they thought about human issues in such a coherent way. They both are unique individuals whose worlds are far apart, yet whose ideas have laid a lasting effect on lives of the people in what it means to be in the service of humanity, the otherwordness, Hizmat. They both have moved from unresolvable issues of religious debate which keep people aloof from each other and have brought them to dialogue about what is more poignant in their lives and the future before them. Education, being conscious of the political climate, national, regional, and international, are as important as being religious. Gulen and Ariyaratne are both life witnesses to wars and conflicts and need no academic insight to read history of conflict vividly and insightfully. Both have witnessed the results of big wars and small wars. The two movements and their campaigns take up peace building not as an option to undertake, but a serious civic responsibility to embrace. They carve out a virtual peace-building templates for groups to pursue and evolve their own models of peacemaking strategies. It's not only Gulen and Ariyaratne who have become mentors of several generations of men and women of commitment and honor in the service to humanity, but also the two movements to have in their social commitment have prioritized peace building through engagement with all sectors. The two movements themselves are mentors today as they operate among other stakeholders and policymakers. They are compelled to listen to them carefully, even if they have other plans to execute both at policy and community level. Friends and colleagues, information technology coupled with knowledge explosion, trucking along sometimes unmeasured social mobility have all pushed and created new and complex human relations. There are, on the other hand, religious resurgences and revivals of different magnitude, one wing pushing the religious groups to be fundamental and to adopt extreme measures to dispense objectives of fundamentalist thinking, while the other wing making all advantages to fatten their flock, deploying unethical means. Both movements are in the middle of these social, political push and pushes. And therefore, it is imperative that a middle ground win in the socio-political nature accommodate people to sober path whereby they are enabled to assess for themselves human behavior and rational action. The modern gurus of hope in the persons of Gulen and Ari Ratna, teaching and witnessing to people's valor of resistance and heartwarming commitment to service remain lighthouses of radiation to show a pathway amidst clear signs of terminal conflicts in many corners of the globe, socio-economic despair and political despondency. Theirs is a vision, a paradigm of service that cannot be ignored by their contemporaries, who are serious about peace building and a safer world. Thank you.